Appleton teen Jerika Bolen, suffering from spinal muscular atrophy, decided she no longer wanted to fight the inevitable.
I need to do what's best for me. It was a really hard decision to make.
Because of her condition, Jerika lives in constant, intense pain and only has the use of some of her muscles.
A letter sent by the executive director of Disabled Parents' Rights, a Colorado-based group asking Allegheny County to intervene on Jerika's behalf in case she's not getting the proper care.
I'm really concerned that she's not getting appropriate medical care, that she has doctors that are devaluing her life.
14-year-old Jerika Bolen suffers from spinal muscular atrophy type 2, and she's made the decision to stop medical treatment, which will end her life. But now some disability rights organizations are demanding that Child Protective Services get involved. Joining us, Lisa Bloom, attorney at Avo.com and the Bloom firm. She specializes in family law. Bradford Cohen, defense attorney, and Judy Ho, clinical psychologist and professor at Pepperdine University. Judy, she is 14 years of age. She's been living with this disease her whole life, but is she old enough to make a decision like this?
I don't believe so, Dr. Drew. As you know, a 14-year-old's brain is just starting to form the frontal lobe development, that executive function. Pick up that brain, Dr. Drew. We've had this conversation, and it's still developing. We actually know that the frontal lobe continues to develop even into early 20s for most individuals. So this is just the beginning of that. And what does the frontal lobes do? It helps us make complex decisions, forecast the future, understand long-term planning. I don't think that she can do that right now.
So to get back to our brain here, so we're talking about this part of the brain up here, right in here. And without that, you might succumb to what, Judy? Magical thinking that, you know, I'm going to whatever sort of thing she imagines is reality rather than any kind of real perspective on the future. Would that be about accurate?
That's right. She doesn't have a full perspective on the future. She probably can't forecast much longer than a couple of weeks or a month at a time at this age, and that is age appropriate. And I feel like if she was to live a little longer, she would allow that part to develop, and she would be able to see what some of these other possibilities
We're looking at pictures of her. They essentially put on sort of a prom for her, a real celebration of her life with the expectation that she was going to do this. Bradford, where do you fall in on this?
You know, I understand the argument that she's a little young at 14 years old, but I'm sure she lived a lot and seen a lot and been in a lot of pain those 14 years. I understand the psychology of it, that a 14-year-old can't make these kind of decisions. But at the same token, I also understand that this person is in a great amount of pain. I don't know if she's going to live long enough to actually reach the age where you feel that it's age appropriate for her to want to stop medical treatment. It's a very difficult decision, but this is someone who is in pain every day. She does not want to be in pain every day. I think if you're 14 or if you're 18, you understand that very well. And I think she understands that. And I think that the government always wants to intrude on these type of situations, and sometimes they're correct. Sometimes you do have to get involved. But in this type of case where everyone has kind of talked to her, everyone has decided that this is kind of what she wants, I don't know if you want to continue this person to be in pain for this long.
Let me throw another little wrinkle into this, which is that patients with spinal muscular atrophy sometimes, particularly some of the variants, get more intelligent as they get older, and they can actually have an accelerated intelligence through adolescence. So she might be sort of ahead of her years. That's a possibility. I wish they would document that. What this disorder does is it destroys the cells that control voluntary motor activity. Weakness, wasting of these muscles in the arms, legs particularly. This particular variant develops in children between 6 and 18 months of age, and then gets worse. It's an inherited phenomenon, and there is no cure for it. I want to show you what her mother said when the daughter told her she wanted to be taken off the ventilator. Take a look.
I said, Jerika, I love you that much that I will not let you suffer. If it's that bad, then it's okay. Mom will find a way to be okay.
Lisa, I'm sure you have an opinion.
I do. I think the decision starts with her, but it does not end with her. The first question is to her, is this something that she wants? She has said yes. Then we go to her parents and her mother, who none of us can put ourselves in the shoes of this mother and what she has gone through. She says yes. Then we need an independent third party to come in and evaluate and make sure that a child, and she is a child legally at 14, is making this decision of her own free will, of sound mind, that she has enough maturity. And I think if all three of those people say say yes, then the decision is yes, and we have to respect it.
Let me get another opinion. Joining us by Skype is Bishop Counsel Ned, a member of Project 21, a Black leadership group. He's a Pennsylvania state constable. Counsel, you don't think Jerika should be allowed to end her own life. Tell me why.
Well, I don't think that she's mature enough to make this decision. You know, I look at the pictures of her. I don't know the girl. I've never met her. But from the videos I've seen, she's a sweet child filled with joy. I think she's got an opportunity to inspire a lot of people, maybe even inspire a cure for this particular disease. But the fact is, we don't let 14-year-olds make any decisions in this world, in this life, in this country. And especially, this is the ultimate decision. We're going to place this in the hands of a 14-year-old, and the government's just going to stand by and say, you know what, we're just going to let her do this. We don't let any other 14-year-olds make these sorts of decisions. And there are lots of young people, lots of adults who face all sorts of decisions, have all sorts of debilitating diseases. And then also, I think also to some extent, you're minimizing mental health issues. So if someone's got a mental health issue and they decide ultimately they want to kill themselves, well, why are we going to intervene in this case and not in the other?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenging philosophical and clinical situation. But Judy, I'm looking at these videos, and this does not look like a woman or young lady in distress, right? She says she's in pain all the time, but if she is, it's pretty well controlled. She has quality of life. She has, you know, some joy in her life. And counsel makes a great point. She might find a way to create more meaning by maybe being of service or something when she's older. I mean, this would be a tough one for me.
That's right. And certainly, at least what we're seeing is that she has glimpses of good moments, happy moments, joyous moments in her life. And this is another thing about a 14-year-old's brain. Sometimes they forget a lot easier than us adult brains. They sometimes have a memory, and then they can't recall it later on when they're trying to make a decision about their experience.
Particularly when they're in a certain state, they don't remember what it was like when they were in a different state, right?
That's right. It's very similar to that object permanence issue we talk about, where if something's not in front of them right away, they forget about it.
Yeah.
And so this is sort of what she's experiencing now. I do believe that we see some glimpses of good quality of life. So if there's ways to increase that more, then should she be at least using the counsel of multiple people, her parents, an independent person, before she makes her final decision?
Lisa, go ahead.
It's not for us to decide.
Is it?
It's her life. It is her life. You might make another decision if you were in chronic pain and you had an incurable disease, but this is the decision she wants to make about her life. And if she's of sound mind, and there's no evidence of any mental health issues that I've read about in this case, and if her mother, who is in the closest position, you know, to her, makes the same decision, and if an independent third party can evaluate her, I think we have to respect her decision about her life.
And that's actually my point, Lisa. I wasn't actually disagreeing with you. I think that she needs to have multiple people make this decision.
Counsel, last thought before I take a break.
I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but is it the desire to commit suicide and mental health affliction in and of itself? Why are we examining this further?
Yeah, I agree. It's a complex issue, and it can be for sure. We'll keep it going. We'll keep this conversation going. We need to decide whose business is it when somebody wishes to end their life. Who really's business is it? I've got a woman who hopes to intervene in this case. And later, the NFL anthem protest is growing, but was 9/11 the appropriate day to do this? We'll talk about it after this.
Actually verify. And we can also verify that a tired dog is a good dog. So if you need a great dog walker, find one at Angie's List. Join today for free.
Morning Express with Robin Meade. Weekdays at 6 on HLN.
When Jerika Bolen asked for a prom, she did not think it would end up like this.
Not really. I thought it was going to be like a low-key, but it's really awesome.
For her last wish, Jerika said she wanted a prom. Because of her condition, Jerika lives in constant, intense pain and only has the use of some of her muscles. Next month, she'll go into hospice care.
It makes my heart explode. It's so crazy that people want to come for little me. I'm nothing.
Oh, my God, she's so sweet. Jerika Bolen, 14 years old, suffering from an incurable illness called spinal muscular atrophy, and she's made the decision to end her life. But some disability rights groups are trying to get involved here. I'm back with Lisa, Bradford, and Judy. Joining us by the phone is Carrie Ann Lucas, attorney, founder, and executive director of Disabled Parents' Rights. And Carrie Ann, you want Child Protective Services involved here. Tell me about that.
Well, if any other 14-year-old, if a non-disabled 14-year-old thought to end their life, Child Protective Services would be involved and would view that as a concern that a child's not getting adequate mental health or medical treatment. And so that's our concern, is when you look through the lens of any other 14-year-old, and 14-year-olds have a rough time.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, 14-year-olds, it's a rough time in all 14-year-olds' lives, or most 14-year-olds. So that's our concern. And this is a population I work with on a regular basis. We see teenagers in angst all the time.
Carrie Ann, let me ask you this. Is there some result from an evaluation that would have you co-signing her wishes? Is there any scenario you can imagine?
Well, I can imagine a number of different scenarios. Under the scenario of having spinal muscular atrophy, which is not acutely terminal for Jerika or any other teenager, not SMA type 2, is not a condition that's really much unlike the condition that I live with, and certainly is exactly the same of many parents that I work with. I work with mothers and fathers who have SMA type 2 all the time.
You work with parents? Hold on a second. You work with parents of SMA kids, is that right?
No, I work with parents of SMA kids, but I primarily work with parents who have SMA type 2.
I see.
We're talking people who, this young woman has a rich life in front of her. She should be looking forward to college and high school and growing up and having a family, or if that's what she so chooses to do, and having a career. I know people with SMA type 2, just like her, who have similar progression as her, they're living rich and fulfilling adult lives.
Bradford, you wanted to get, hang on a second, Carrie Ann. Sorry, hang on, Bradford, you wanted to make a comment here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, she lives off a ventilator. Her quality of life in her own eyes is not good. She's living in pain every day. I don't know who you work with, but you don't work with this young lady. And this young lady's in pain every day. Is there an age appropriate where she feels she's in so much pain and she has to live with this so badly that you feel that she can make the right decision? So if she's 18, would you be okay with that decision? Or would you still say, no, she needs to get more mental health? We need to get the government involved, because the government needs to tell people when they're in the amount of pain that they should live with in order to end their own lives. I think the government should stay out of it. I think that I agree, and you're going to get me on this one. I have to agree with Lisa Bloom that you get a third-party evaluator. The third-party evaluator looks at this young lady, talks to this young lady, and figures this out. And if these are her wishes, this is what should be done. She lives in pain every day. Okay. That is what she says. That is what the medical physicians say.
Judy, what if you're the medical evaluator?
Well, listen, this is exactly why they bring in people to evaluate decision-making capacity. And people like trained psychologists do this for older individuals who might be losing decision-making capacity, or that's a question. And I think for the 14-year-old, that's a similar process, because we're not exactly sure about her ability to make this type of decision. She can obviously make decisions about what she wants to wear that day, what she wants to eat, but can she make a decision about whether to end her life? I think this issue is pretty similar to older adults who might be going through dementia and wondering if they can make that decision.
But you heard what Carrie Ann was saying, that there are these people with spinal muscular atrophy, and I'd read this too, that they could live well into adulthood, and why is she wanting to truncate her life? And Lisa, I know you're just recovering from Bradford having said he agreed with you, so I'll give you a chance to respond here or ring in with us.
Listen,
it won't be long.
I want to show some respect to Carrie Ann, because I think it is important to keep in mind that some people in our culture are willing to write off the lives of disabled people a little too quickly. And so we do want to be very, very careful before we allow a person under the age of 18 to make this decision. And we want to make sure that she's making it of sound mind, that she really is in chronic pain, etc. And I think Carrie Ann makes a very good point about that we have to look very, very carefully. Just because she's in a wheelchair, just because she has an illness, just because she's on a ventilator, her life is still valuable. I think that's Carrie Ann's point.
And Carrie Ann, I'm going to give you, hang on, Carrie Ann, hang on. I'm going to give you the last word, but why not, let's honor Bradford's decision or idea to get the government out and get spinal muscular atrophy patients involved, and maybe Skype with her or FaceTime and get other people to inspire her, be of service to her, to help her understand how her life could go forward.
That's something that our community has certainly reached out to her, and many people are, and I hope she does reach out to them. But there's a very big distinction here. This young woman is not on a ventilator. She's not on a ventilator 24/7. She uses a BiPAP, similar to Christine, that tens of thousands of Americans who have sleep apnea use every year. So
I wondered about that, because I don't see it here in this footage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a person who uses a ventilator. I am trached. I use a ventilator 24/7, and it does not diminish quality of life. And I can point to hundreds of other people who are professionals, who are doctors, who are lawyers, who are teachers, who are professors, all of whom use ventilators. We're parents. We're active in our communities. We volunteer in our communities. We have rich, fulfilling lives as well. And that's an important distinction here. This young woman will not die quickly, and she will not die by simply stopping the bypass.
Okay.
The only way she'll die is if someone gives her medication to hasten her death.
Okay, well,
and that's our concern.
That's not likely to happen. But Carrie Ann, please reach out to her. I hope you have some success in inspiring her, because I do kind of sense that she could live on with some degree of joy and productivity. Thank you very much, everybody. Next, find out why actor Rob Lowe was not happy with some of the NFL players on opening day. And later, the hot car dad trial. What are his chances of being found not guilty? Evidence